Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to the story of my haunted house. Real quick, just wanted to get it out of the way right now and put it to bed. I understand that this video is going to be open to some criticism. I know not everyone believes in the paranormal or ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to call them, and that's fine. I'm not making these videos as an attempt to convince anybody of anything. I'm not gonna rig anything to pop out or anything stupid like that. If anything like that does happen, hand to God, it wasn't me. So, I guess if she wants to make me a millionaire, cool. But yeah, this is not going to be some hoax. This is not going to be me trying to convince you of anything. This is purely me wanting to talk to you guys about my experiences in life with the paranormal. This is not the first video I've done, but I understand that me saying like, oh, I live in a haunted house, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, oh, bullshit. And that's fine. You know, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. All I ask is that you be respectful of me and the other people who do believe in stuff like this. DOD, Days of Darkness, is a platform where everybody can be open about their beliefs and themselves. I don't want to create some environment where I don't want to create an environment of exclusivity with any sort of belief or anything. You know, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to talk about horror movies, and in this case, we're here to talk about the paranormal. So, with that being said, I moved here in 2006. I was very, very young, and was moving from a little town in Arnold, Missouri, and moving to this big suburban neighborhood was huge for me, to say the least. But yeah, man, I really love the house. I still do. I think it's a great pad, man. It's worked for years and years and years. So I really like it here. As a kid, I never really believed in like ghosts or anything like that. Whoop, there goes my pen. I didn't really believe in anything like that. You know, I'm not going to get into my beliefs and all that, but I wasn't really sure about the whole ghost thing, you know. And then, you know, I had some paranormal, some paranormal experiences, but I never really, to be honest, I was far too young to really wrap my head around any of it. I mean, looking back at it now, believing all that I believe and yada, 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 100%. I had paranormal experiences happen to me long before I moved here. But yeah, as a kid, I wasn't really like, oh yeah, spirits are real, ghosts are real, yada, yada, yada. Was not in that mindset whatsoever. So then, you know, I'm an only child, and my step siblings would come over to my house every other weekend, and you know, I would play with my sister a lot, you know, and obviously I love all three of my siblings, but me and my sister, I was close with all three of them, but we really played a lot together. It's legitimately some of my best memories. And it's during a lot of that where some of the paranormal shit happened, you know, and it was nothing huge. There was nothing really that crazy. up until, what I will eventually talk about. It was just a lot of like generic spooky stuff, house creaks and stuff you really wouldn't pay too much mind to. And even like looking back, it very well could have been non-paranormal. But the first real big one that kind of like spooked me, I wasn't convinced of anything, but it's so funny that now I'm hearing footsteps as I'm about to say this. Me and my sister were in my room, just like playing with like my action figures or something like that. And we were the only ones in the house. My brothers were gone, and my parents were gone. So it was just me and my sister. And, our dog, Bella, who's nowhere near the size to be making the sounds that I'm about to describe to you. We hear footsteps outside of the door. Outside of her door. The door was closed, and we hear footsteps walking around the house. Wasn't for very long, it's maybe a couple seconds. And we're like, what the fuck? And immediately she's convinced, oh, someone broke into our house or snuck into our house or something. We heard no doors open, nothing like that. Sure enough, she finally gets up the balls to check, and there's nothing there. So that was like weird, and that was like the first time I really thought of it. I think we had entertained the thought of it being like a ghost or whatever, but there was no real like thing about it. And that was the only big one I can really remember. And then, just a lot of small things, lots of like little creaks and croaks throughout the house. But nothing like, no voices, like I never heard anything like that. Just nothing to that level. And then eventually the big one happened. And we will get to the big one as our main event for the video. But before we do that, I want to real quick talk about the spirit herself. And yes, I am convinced that the spirit is female. If, even when you reach that point of existence, if you even have a gender, who's to really say? But, someone did die here, and it was a woman. So I just refer to it as her, and that's it. I'm sure, to some people they're going to be like, this guy's fucking cuckoo, which I am, but that's not one of these things. This is real. But anyways, so all of the crazy stuff has happened. The big one happened, and years later, I finally told my mom about it. And, it wasn't a big thing, but she had been having her own kind of experiences, and I told her about mine. And she finally talked to our landlord, who, God rest her soul, unfortunately, is no longer with us. But she actually worked with our landlord, and she asked her if anyone had died here. And she said yes, which, when my mom told me that, I was like, that would explain a lot. But she said that, this woman was as sweet as can be. And if she is still there, she's the nicest ghost you'll ever meet. So I do not want to give off the impression that I am afraid or scared of this entity at all. I'm really not. I feel like that's a very negative, perception people have on the paranormal, is it's always evil and it's always yada yada, which if you've heard my paranormal stories in the past, I have 100% encountered evil paranormal activity, 100%. This is not one of those cases. I do not. Yes, I have had yes, it's a very chilling experience, obviously. And when I was a kid, obviously I was shitting myself. But now I'm not of the opinion that, this entity is evil or anything like that. Farther from the truth. I totally believe my landlord. She was a very, my landlord, I'm saying, she was a very, very sweet woman. And I trust her. So, you know, she says that this person was a good human being. I 100% believe that. But anyways, so moving on. This does not make any of the things any less crazy. It's just, it's not that type of video, man. I have nothing but respect for this entity, and honestly, if she wants to chill here, that's cool. It's fine with me. But anyways, so I am going to now talk about the 3 other experiences that I had that have 110% convinced me that that the place I live in is in fact haunted. So the first one being, I think everyone can relate to this, that feeling where you're walking and you just, someone runs past you very quickly and you get that breeze that just goes on one half of your body almost. I've had that happen to me a couple times walking through the main hallway of my house. Just this like, and I'm like, okay, you know, it's all good. You're on a different physical plane. You don't necessarily have to say, excuse me. But yeah, no, I've had that happen to me multiple times. And it's to the point now where I don't even think about it, which I know I'm being super casual, but you got to remember I've been living with this for like over 10 years. So it's nothing wild to me. You know, it's nothing crazy. It's funny, my girlfriend, Mrs. Darkness, is not used to this at all. So, and she also does believe in the paranormal. So whenever anything like minor does happen, she's always a little skittish, and I'm like, it's just her, like, it's okay. And she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I know. But anyways, so yeah, I've had that happen multiple times to me. And then the 2 that are huge. Up until this point, you know, you could argue, apology for the AC in the background. It's a house. Sorry. But up until this point, maybe not the footsteps necessarily, but you could argue, okay, it's just sounds, or you're hearing things, and yada, yada, yada. This is all stuff that I guess if you really dug deep, you could just explain away. Again, the footsteps, I would say that's pretty hard to say. But with the hallway thing, you're like, okay, it's just a draft, it's just a breeze, whatever. But anyways, these next 2, above all else, have 100% convinced me of this being a thing. So, the first one was actually pretty recent. It was, I believe, in 2019. No. This is 2020. Yeah, 2020 for sure. I'm not all there anymore. But anyways, so this is fairly recent, and this was like a huge thing for me. And I was like, oh yeah, you're definitely still here. No doubt. So I was laying in my bed in my room. At the time, actually, my bed was in the office where you see all the film reviews and all of that. And I had just been laying there. It was pitch black, because I just like to do that sometimes. I just like to relax and, you know, decompress. So it's pitch black, pitch dark, and I'm just laying there, arms at my side, nothing remotely around me, near me, nothing. There was no other feasible explanation for what I'm about to describe. I'm just laying there. I am fully awake. I am fully conscious. There was no dream, nothing. All of a sudden, I just feel this right on my nose. Just that quick, just a little, like someone just booped my nose, pretty much, or flicked it, or whatever you want to say. And I was just like, it didn't even like scare me, because again, I had lived with the knowledge and the belief that, you know, someone's here. Someone is here that's not necessarily a member of my family, but at this point, might as well be. She has made herself at home, no doubt. And again, cool with it. But yeah, and I felt that, and I had been flicked on the nose before plenty of times. It's a very distinct feeling. You know that feeling. And yeah, I have been physically touched by a spirit, which is wild. And that was huge. That was a big one. But to me, what 100% absolutely completely convinced me above anything else, it 100% convinced me that yeah, this place is haunted. So just to lay the groundwork out for you, my brother, my stepbrother, had been living with us for quite a while, and you know, my other brother and my stepsister would come over a lot as well, and you know, they would, but my brother lived here, and he lived down here in the basement, and his room was completely comprised of curtains hanging up, just like that one. Just to give him walls and give him privacy, because, you know, we have our washer and dryer down here and just a bunch of different stuff, and we wanted to, you know, I was a fucking kid, I didn't really have any say in anything, but they wanted him to have his privacy and stuff, you know, so they just hung up curtains everywhere, and it was so crazy. I can still remember to this day, which actually I'll just fucking show you right now. If you look right there, we have since put, you know, drywall up, you know, it's where the dartboard and the painting are and stuff like that. That's where all of that used to just be curtains that were just up there, and yeah, that was his room. Fully furnished room. It was actually a fucking sick pad, to be honest. But yeah, so me and my sister, when she would come over, we were always down there. My other brother was not here on this weekend. I don't remember why, but he just wasn't. So it was me, my sister, and my brother, and we would often just spend the night down there. We would sleep. We would stay up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, which for a young, I must have been like 8 or 9 when this happened. So for a young kid, it probably wasn't the best thing in the world, but hey. So we would often just sleep down there with him, you know. I would take a couch, she would take a couch, and then he would sleep on his bed. So what ended up happening was I was sleeping right next to one of the curtain walls, and it had become morning. Since then, you know how every basement has those like windows at the top. I'm actually looking right up at one right now. But each you know, basement has their own window, you know, that or they have a bunch of little windows up at the top, and you know, it had become morning. I think it was like 6 a.m. because I was looking over at his alarm clock, and I vaguely remember it being like 6 a.m. So the sun's shining into the room, and obviously that would illuminate through the curtains. And I woke up, and I just looked over, and this curtain wall that I am sleeping next to, on the other side of that wall is the staircase, which, like, you know, any basement, you can go under the staircase, you can put shit under the staircase, yada yada. It's just an open little area. And so I might even put pictures just at the end of the video just to describe what I'm like trying to convey here. But anyways, so I wake up, and when I open my eyes, I look, you know, through the, not through the curtain, but I look, you know, I just open my fucking eyes and I look at the curtain. And I see a silhouette of a person. Now, I know the initial thought would be, okay, your sister's standing out there, your brother's standing out there. So I sit up and I look over at both of them, and they're both still fast asleep. They are still asleep. They're knocked out. Um, and so I just lay back down and I look at this thing again, and I know, okay, my mom and my dad both have pretty distinct body types, and this matches neither of those. And so I'm like, oh, okay. I'm a 8 or 9 year old kid just like trying to process this. I'm like, is someone just in my house? So I'm looking at this thing literally till like for an hour and a half. So I wake up at 6 a.m., let's say, and it's like 7:30. And I'm just and it's not moving. It's not going anywhere. I'm just locked onto this entity. And I keep looking and looking and looking. And then finally in my head, I ask it a question. Because I'm like, okay, what's up? And I said, do you like cookies? I didn't fucking know what to say. I was a kid. I was like, do you like cookies? And this silhouette just is standing there just like this. I can't see any facial features. It's a shadow through a curtain. Couldn't tell you what she looks like. She just goes, and I was like, oh boy. And I was like, I remember asking it maybe some other questions, which I think I asked it like 3 or 4 other questions, and I would get subsequent like yes or no. No audible speaking, no arm movement, no physical body, just no or yes. So finally, I ask, I'm like, are you going to hurt me? Or something like that. I asked in some way, are you going to harm me? And, she just went, and I was like, okay. And obviously as a kid, you're still scared, And so eventually, I think another hour goes by, or somewhere around that. So it's like 8:30. And I get up, I bust through that curtain. My siblings, who were teenagers at the time, were still fast asleep. And I just bust out of that curtain and I rip ass up those stairs, dude. I have never went up those stairs faster in my life. It was crazy. It was nuts. And I stayed up there, and I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't think anyone would believe me. I finally, as I said before, I told my mom years later. But yeah, man, it was 100% nuts. Like I said, Spirit's totally cool. I've never gotten any evil, harmful vibes or anything like that. She's A-okay with me. It's all good, but that doesn't make the experiences any less wild or trippy or crazy or anything like that. So, without further ado, guys, that'll do it for me. Obviously, I know this is going to spawn a lot of discussion, potentially. And I'm all for it. Let's talk. Let's rap about this, man. I'm really curious to see if you guys have any any paranormal stories. I want to hear all about it. And yeah, man, let's just talk. All right, guys. So without further ado, almost forgot. Next time on Days of Darkness, we are going to be talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street remake from 2010. And I have not seen that movie in a very long time. I've watched it a couple times since initially seeing it in 2010. But yeah, I think I'm going to have a pretty unique view on that movie, if my memory serves me correctly. But yeah, guys, so without further ado, Thank you as always for watching, and take care of each other and keep watching horror. All right, guys, have a good day.